I think my wife's best friend is developing feelings for me, and my wife doesn't want to believe me because it's her best friend. Okay, yes, I'm aware that I'm gonna sound arrogant and like a narcissist. Get over it. My wife and I have known each other in total 20-ish years. We have dated for 9, married for 5. She has known her best friend Dee since the end of high school/early college. They are like sisters. Dee has horrible luck with guys. Abusive relationships, toxic relationships. She's had it all and then some. I know this because she vents about it to my wife and me all the time. Recently, she just got through a particularly rough relationship, which she decided she was no longer going to date and just be single for a while. She began making comments to my wife about how lucky she is that she has me, and it must make her feel so good to have a supporting, caring, loving man in her life to take care of her. This is when her changed behavior began. She's been very clingy to me. She never was before when she comes over. Head on my shoulder, sitting on my lap, etc. And she tells me all the time that I make her feel safe and comfortable. She always asks how my dad is going and if I'm happy to see her, or how I think her body looks in her outfit, which she kinda did before, but now she draws attention to her feminine areas. A joke was made by my wife about Dee being my second wife to do all the stuff my wife doesn't feel like doing. Dee jumped onto this and now refers too often enough as second wife. And my wife thinks it's funny, and it was, until Dee sent me a picture of a ring that she wanted because even your second wife needs a ring. I've brought this all up to my wife because I don't want to keep her in the dark about anything, and she just says things like, that's just her, or she doesn't mean anything by it. My fear is that Dee is getting what she's never gotten from any of her past relationships. Comfort, validation, safety, and that she'll become attached to this sort of fantasy. I don't want my wife to think that I'm doing anything behind her back, but as I've stated, she just brushes it all off. Am I just being too observant, or is there something there that my wife isn't seeing? Thoughts? In the comments, SoCal Sunshine says, just have 2 wives. Problem solved. As a female with a lot of guy friends, there is a huge difference in confiding with someone and then sitting in someone's lap. That to me seems like there's more to it. I'd chat with your wife and see where she stands on it. OP says she brushes it all off. I have brought up everything that has happened and left nothing out. They reply to OP, you're also allowed to have boundaries. Just because she's okay with it, and even if your wife is, doesn't mean that you are, and that deserves to be respected. I find it odd that she doesn't see anything weird about it. Females are hyper-aware of what they are doing. And OP says, are you suggesting that my wife may see something there and not care? Look, that could potentially be the case, and I think that it is inappropriate as much as you are seeing that it's inappropriate. And yes, it is very odd that you've brought everything up and she continues to brush it off. If you don't want another woman sitting on your lap and getting as close to you as she is, that's a perfectly acceptable and reasonable boundary for you to have with someone else. It really doesn't matter if your wife doesn't have a problem with it. You have a problem with it. Tell her that the best friend needs to stop. Tell the best friend that she needs to chill out with all of that and stop being all over you, and stop with this really weird amount of intimacy she is giving you. It makes me uncomfortable hearing it, and I don't think that anything good can come from it. It really feels like a ticking time bomb of resentment from your wife. Something that could potentially seriously affect your relationship, and it will have been her fault as well for condoning it and allowing it to continue. And now, onto the update. Thank you for everyone's input and advice on my situation. On that note, there are some questions that I keep seeing, so I'll answer some below. Sitting on my lap. This has only happened twice. Both instances were at parties where there was no seating left where I was sitting. I actually offered her my seat, and she said thanks and sat on my lap. Yes, both times were in front of my wife, and she thought it was funny, so rather than make a scene by kicking her off, I waited until an opportunity came, like I needed more food, drink, bathroom, etc. Is she hot or am I attracted to her? By society's standards, she would be very attractive. By society standards, my wife would be not as attractive. That being said, my wife is exactly what I want in a woman. Just speaking physically at the moment. My wife is short, very pale skin, long curly brown hair, and not skinny because of the children we've had together. I love my wife the way she is, and we are working together to help her lose the baby fat that she wants to lose. Dee, on the other hand, is taller than me. I'm 5'10", tan skin, straight dirty blonde hair, and skinny. Again, attractive, it's just not what I'm into. Okay, so now for the update. I talked to my wife about everything going on and my concerns about it, using some points that people brought up in the comments. It turns out that my wife is aware of the situation and is actually partially behind it. Apparently, she brought up the idea of using me to show her best friend what to look for in a guy was a good idea, but has gone a little farther than she thought it would. Forgive her, she had good intentions. So we're both going to sit down with Dee and talk about everything next time she comes over. And now for the latest updates. Firstly, thank you to everyone for your good advice. This will be the last update to this crazy series of events. Now let's get to what you're all waiting for, the update. Dee came over, we all sat down at the table, and the kids are at their aunt's for the night. I stated that I wanted everything to come out, all of the cards on the table. I want to know everything. So this is what went down. Dee has always had awful luck with men. She vents to me and my wife about it all the time. During a conversation when I wasn't present, Dee had said something along the lines of wishing she could find a man like yours because she will never know what it feels like to be genuinely wanted and appreciated. My wife made a bad decision in trying to comfort her friend, suggesting treating me more like a boyfriend than just a good friend. Nothing physical, just the support and comfort and validation for a little to get an idea of what to look for in a man. Dee said that she was fine with that, but when she started to get it from me, she wanted more and more and started to cross boundaries to get it. The lap sitting, that kind of stuff. I asked my wife about it, and she said that it caught her by surprise, but didn't exactly make her uncomfortable with her friend. It was actually the mentioning of Dee wanting a ring that she finally started to see that this was getting out of control. Wife said she realized she messed up, but didn't want to say anything to me about it. I explained to the both of them very thoroughly about how ridiculous this entire thing is, how there are better ways we all could have helped, how this could have destroyed friendships and marriages. They should have come to me, and we could have all figured out ways to help each other together. There were apologies from both parties. Dee is still our friend, and she will be coming over in a few days for us to discuss how she can potentially work on herself and things to look for in the men that she has an interest in dating. My wife is very sorry to Dee and me about the entire thing. So in the end, my wife made a mistake that she is remorseful for, learned from, and will come out better for it. Dee will have help working on herself and working towards a healthier future, and then there's me. Tired, and I want a beer. Thank you again, everyone, for your good words and advice. I'm sorry if this isn't the outcome you hoped, thought, or predicted, but life is unpredictable, and I'm glad this is over. Oh, and there will be no threesome. In the comments, not with that attitude there won't. Many are saying that he fumbled the three-way, but honestly, I think OP's a solid dude, and he handled it awesomely. Not everything on the internet is a plot of a porno. Sorry, but your wife owes you a lot more than an apology. If the genders were reversed in this, so many people would be telling you to call the police and get a divorce lawyer, etc., because it would have been a wife who'd been harassed and physically molested by her husband's friend, despite her clearly not wanting him to do it. But because your wife and her friend are women, nobody is pointing out how serious this is to you. And in that scenario, everyone would be questioning why the husband would want to be friends with a man who sexually harasses his mates' wives. But again, nobody's saying this to you, and you seem to think it's okay for your wife to continue her friendship with this woman, and frankly, it isn't. Your wife not only allowed, but encouraged someone to sexually harass and molest you. Unwanted physical contact? Yup. Sitting on your lap, leaning on your shoulders, feeling you up. Unwanted text messages? Yup. Texting pictures of rings and shit. Unwanted comments? Yup. I wish I had a man like you. And I can assume the feminine areas mentioned were her tits and ass, so I assume the questions she asked were along the lines of, does this show too much cleavage? And does this make my ass look good? And how big do my boobs look in this top? Etc. Also, no sane person would agree to treat someone, never mind their friend's spouse, like a partner in any sense. Much less without discussing it with said spouse first, but because they're women, they think it's harmless and no harm, no foul. This wasn't a mistake or an error in judgment. Nobody is this stupid. Mr. 239 says, no way in hell am I offering up my man as some pacifier to another woman. What was the wife thinking? Honestly, who knows what the wife was thinking? Very good that it didn't become a threesome, because you never know how that could get turned around on you and destroy the relationship. I understand that people are like, oh, you guys are being set up for a threesome right now. It's going to be a little bit of a freaky time. We're just goofy guys. We're just two goofy gals that are playing a little bit of muddy water here. Wouldn't want to get dirty, would we? Ha-ha. Like, no. Props to OP for having self-control and self-awareness in this situation to think with his head and go, this is really messed up. I'm uncomfortable. We need to sort this shit out right now because this could very easily do a lot of real damage to us. I'm very glad that his wife learned from this and that she knows not to test their relationship boundaries like this again. Don't allow socially unacceptable behavior to continue. Do not promote socially unacceptable behavior like that. No good can come from it. As I said before, she will resent her husband for something that she started. And if that resentment cropped up, that will be entirely her fault. Thank God he had the self-awareness to nip it in the bud before it became a problem, and sit everyone down and force direct and open communication. That long comment that I read at the end there, yes, a bit weird vibes coming from that one, but I don't think they're particularly wrong. I understand we don't always have to go swapping the genders and everything, but yes, in that case, if the genders were swapped, that'd be really messed up. I agree with that. In this case, a lot of people find it socially acceptable. Apparently the wife did, so good on them, I guess. Our next post is by a throwaway account, and it's titled, My brother, 27 male, does some really creepy stuff, and I, 21 female, am done with him. Well, hey Reddit, I'm desperate. My brother is really, really creepy. Like really fucking creepy to the point where I look at him and I have serial killer thoughts. And then I realized what I'm thinking and I feel guilty. Yesterday, for example, he picked me up at the university and was supposed to take me to the mall because I needed to buy some things. I realized the route was different and I asked him where he was going. He didn't say anything. I kept asking where we were going because I knew that we were far away from the uni and he was driving faster and faster, and I told him to stop, but he wouldn't. Then he casually went back to the mall, I got out of the car and said that he didn't need to drive me back, and he just went away. Sometimes on holidays, I'll be alone and he'll stand behind me and scare me. I told him multiple times to stop, and he didn't. He's been doing it since we were kids. Sometimes I would wake up and see him standing in front of me while I slept. What the fuck? Excuse me? No need for a sleep paralysis demon when you have a brother like that. Last Thanksgiving, I was sleeping and woke up to him sitting on the edge of my bed, speaking French. Sometimes he'll show up at my college and ask to talk to me. I'll get off class, and then he'll just say that it was nothing and go away. Sometimes I see his car parked at my boyfriend's house. I don't understand it. I'm done with him. What can I do? In the comments, Purple Urkel says, OP, you need to start answering questions so we can help you. Questions like, where are your parents and what do they think of his behavior? Has he been evaluated? Do you ever feel threatened, sexualized? Does he do this with anyone else? Help us out here. Give us something back. OP replies, hey, I'm here. I'm sorry for not answering earlier. I ended up sleeping. Anyway, yes. When I was a little girl, I used to tell my parents about my brother going over to my bedroom and scaring me. My parents would talk to him and say that it's absolutely not okay to do that, but he wouldn't listen to them. My parents also took him to a therapist when he was a kid to see if there was something going on, but no, nothing. He kept doing it as I grew up, except that he became creepier, like the things I mentioned in the post. There was one occasion where I was on a trip in another country, and he showed up at the same place I was, but instead of being excited by his presence, I was just so tired about it. So I asked him, "What are you doing here?" And he said, "I'm just enjoying France. You're the only one who can appreciate this beauty?" I couldn't do anything, so I ended up accepting it. He does have a girlfriend, and no, he doesn't act that way with her. He doesn't act this way with anyone. He has a good job, and I don't live with my parents, nor does he. Wait a second. This dude randomly shows up while you're in France out of nowhere and just seems to bump into you? That's some next level shit right there. Did you tell your parents about this issue in particular? And OP says, I did. My parents were disappointed that he was still doing that and told me they were going to talk to him. It happened in March too, so not long ago. Yeah, that's very weird. The parents don't seem to care about his behavior, do they? That raises a lot of red flags in that it sounds like they are enabling it or they are allowing it to continue. Once again, what is wrong with people noticing socially unacceptable behavior, having it brought up to them and being like, actually, it's not really a problem. Let's just let this one continue, huh? How about you be the bigger person and you let it slide and stop making a big deal about it? I'm going to guess that's an assumption as to how this went with the parents. Him just showing up out of nowhere while she's in another country? Yeah, she's getting stalked by her 6-year-older brother. That's not okay. None of this situation is okay. To be stalked and harassed like this by your own brother? I think it's time for a restraining order against this man and socially and publicly shaming this behavior, pointing it out at every opportunity that you can. Okay, so trigger warning for this one. Just thought I'd throw it in there. Mentions of suicide or attempted suicide, mentions of assault, mentions of violence, lots of violence. If you don't like that, you can just skip ahead. And now, onto the update. So I talked to my parents and told them that I was tired of my brother's behavior and that they should do something, otherwise I wouldn't be going home anymore. They said I was being too extreme and that he would stop eventually, but that shit has been going on since we were kids, and I knew he wasn't going to stop. So I gave them an ultimatum. They would talk to my brother, and my brother would stop, or the three of them could have a nice life. My parents talked to him after all. My brother refused to get evaluated at first. He was really upset. He went over to my dorm and tried to choke me. He screamed at me, and then he tried to choke me, and then he realized what he was doing and started crying and apologizing. Someone called the cops because my brother tried to kill himself afterwards. Anyway, everything is okay now. Well, I mean, not everything. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia. He didn't get a full written report because it's been a week and it takes time, but that was the feedback and diagnosis. I'm gonna be okay. I just want to say thank you for the advice and stuff, you know? I appreciate it a lot. In the comments, so, how will your relationship with your brother be now? And OP says, I'm not sure. He's just getting treatment now after 27 years, and it will be tough. Really, really tough. I'll try to be supportive of him, but I have to take care of myself too. Wow, OP, you're a hero. You're the only one in your family strong enough to put your foot down about the reality of this situation, and as a result, your brother can now get the help that he needs. Well done, you. Credit to OP. She's a rock star here, but Jesus, those parents are worse than useless. How do you let this kind of behavior escalate to this point without trying some kind of intervention? Perfect example of, we tried nothing and we're all out of ideas. Very much the school of, if you ignore the problem doesn't exist. There's actually a phenomenon where sometimes people will deny something even when presented with proof if accepting it means that their worldview changes too much. Boy, do I have some questions. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia but was exhibiting those behaviors since he was a child? Did the parents not actually talk to him or take him to therapy like OP said he did, or take him seriously at all? If I were OP, I'd be thinking really hard about if I wanted those parents in my life anymore. The level of complacency and negligence with how they dealt with the brother is astounding, and it put her directly at risk. And Boschtet says, "My brother wasn't diagnosed with it until he was older, but my dad told me that even back in middle school, he remembered my brother coming home and telling him and my mum all the time about how he was afraid because he thought he was always hearing people at school talking about him and that they wanted to hurt him." Unlike OP's parents, they did take it seriously. But back then, especially in the area that we grew up, getting mental health treatment wasn't easy, and the doctors wrote it off as social anxiety. It's just sad how so many steps along the way, OP was let down by her parents, the people that she should be able to trust the most in a situation like this. It's really sad. It's not okay. I don't think I could have a good relationship or any relationship at all with those people after them allowing something like this to occur, after them ignoring the signs for so many years. I don't know how I could have a healthy relationship with my parents after this. I would feel like me getting assaulted to this point and him having the breakdown that he did was entirely their fault, as they're the ones that are supposed to be protecting us, and they failed to do so. I don't know, that's how I feel. I'm sure there's other trains of thought around this where it's like, no, actually, it was his responsibility to recognize the signs, and it was on him to get help. You could have distanced yourself, this, that, and the other, but no. I blame the parents. This is their fault that this happened. There were so many things that they could have done to intervene before this. Obviously, it's on him as well for being a terrible person and assaulting his sister and doing all of this. But I just feel like so many people failed OP, and I'm sad for her, but I'm glad that he is now taken away. He's getting diagnosed, he's getting treated. Hopefully, OP can use all of this to get the hell away from that family, because it's obvious that she's not safe with any of them. Anyway, guys, that's where I'm going to end today's episode. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.